Welcome to the Zawya Podcast. This is Noha Al-Hinnawi, and today I'm speaking to Zeinab Adel, the head of Knight Frank's Cairo office. Knight Frank is a global real estate consultancy that has just opened an office in Egypt. The firm sees an opportunity to offer a wide range of services in what it believes is a thriving real estate market. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us.
My pleasure.
What made Knight Frank open an office in Egypt?
Well, Egypt's real estate market has always been booming, always on the rise. And I think as Knight Frank, they have been in and out of Egypt for the past at least 10 years, doing research, doing business indirectly. And they have always been monitoring the real estate market in Egypt very, very closely. And I think having said that, and after having opened so many offices across Africa and the GCC area, it was only right that they open an office in Cairo to bridge those two areas and to make it more of a central area for the whole business across the Middle East and in Africa, to bridge both.
What are your thoughts on Egypt's real estate market in terms of available opportunities?
My thoughts have always been very positive when it comes to Egyptian real estate. Yes, there are definitely cycles, just like everywhere in the world and every other sector. But I think specifically in Egypt, it has been one of the most stable sectors. It brings in a lot of investments. It has grown exponentially over the last few years, or maybe 10 years even. There are subsectors within real estate. So you have residential, you have admin, you have retail, you have industrial. And I think when one slows down a bit, the other one picks up right away. We have recently seen maybe a little bit of a slowdown, not a stop, but a slowdown in residential. But at the same time, we've seen a lot in the commercial areas starting to rise and gain focus. And then also now, I think we're seeing a lot more interest in the industrial and logistics area as well. So I think that's another area that we can help the sector in.
Why is there a slowdown in the residential sector?
It's just normal. I think it's related to the economic situation usually, but also relating supply versus demand. So I think now everyone has invested a lot in the residential, and residential are usually the end users, right? But when it comes to commercial, it can be a full-on investment because it's a recurring income that you can generate out of that investment. And the return on it also is very high. So residential sometimes slows down because the end user, because of the economic situation, is holding off on investment. They have already invested and they just want to keep on with their investments. So you will find another interest shifting into income generating investments when it comes to real estate, but also because the supply of commercial real estate was very limited. And we've seen over the last few years that the development in that sector has grown very, very quickly. And therefore, it has also interested investors to look at that sector because it's no longer standalone buildings where there's a few scattered offices inside or just street retail. You actually find now full-on commercial developments that are standalone developments that have offices on top and retail on the bottom. And I think that model has grown very, very quickly in Egypt because it's more organized.
You have recently launched your report, Destination Egypt, where you gauge the interest of GCC investors in Egypt's real estate market. The report shows that there is a growing appetite among those investors for real estate in Egypt. Why is that?
The GCC and Egypt have always been very close. It's because of the similarities in background, in culture, but also because the GCC weather is very different from Egyptian weather. And in Egypt, throughout the year, you can have very pleasant weather. And I think historically, GCC investors or GCC residents have come to Egypt during the summer months, having the same culture and the same environment like they have at home, but with good scenery, good service, affordable prices, and good weather. And I think on a political level, on an emotional level, on a social level, this area has always been very tightly knit. And I think after we did that report, we've interviewed high net worth individuals in the GCC area with investable income or wealth above $1 million. And we were surprised that around 40 to 60% of them already own units in Egypt. And 94% of them have an interest to invest in the real estate market in Egypt over the coming year. And that was even us finding out the results of that survey was very surprising, but also very promising. And the results of each country also differed. So you would find one GCC country interested in investing in the new admin capital or New Cairo, while another was interested in Sharm el-Sheikh, or another was interested in the North Coast or Suma Bay, for example. And they would name these different areas. They're already very well educated about the market. I think it's just bridging that gap of getting that interest and matching it with the right product.
Besides cultural affinities, why is there this growing appetite from an economic perspective?
I would say maybe the recent devaluations of the Egyptian pound against the US dollar have definitely made real estate in Egypt more affordable to them. But also because now Egypt is picking up on all these high-end developments that they're offering on the market, including branded residences. So if you compare branded residence in Egypt versus a branded residence in the UAE, for example, where this is a common product, you would find that they can get much more for their money in Egypt while having a second home in Egypt. So they would basically be looking at a second home to spend their holidays or to even rent it out as an investment. Here, that would make more sense for them to buy a second or a third house outside of their own country. So I think that's been what we have observed recently from the GCC area.
Your report says that there is a big opportunity for branded residences in Egypt. Why is that?
Because it's still very new. You only have a handful of these developments that are branded in Egypt. We've seen developers announce that they want to have branded residences, but because they haven't been developed yet, it's still to be seen whether they will come to fruition or not. But it's also the demand. So these branded residences, when they started launching, there was so much demand because you guarantee a certain level of quality and service when you buy into such a brand, but also because that's the type of service and quality your foreign investors are looking for as well. So when they're coming in to buy with a local developer, they don't know about them. If they don't have a proper consultant on the ground, they don't know what kind of quality they're getting. But if they're signing on a branded residence with a certain brand that they've already tried outside of Egypt, it makes it very easy for them to know what to expect.
What are the most attractive areas to foreign investors?
Definitely the North Coast, because it's proven that it's been very successful. It offers very good quality, and by now you have all the support services as well. So you have a hospital, you have an airport, you have retail, you have F&B, you have hotels. So it's now appearing to be a very good investment for foreign investment. The Red Sea is also very attractive. So you find, for example, El Gouna is attractive to Europeans, while Suma Bay is attractive to GCC investors, but also some parts of Europe. New Admin Capital has been attracting a lot of foreign investments as well. And also definitely New Cairo because of its proximity to the New Admin Capital.
You're not the first global real estate consultancy firm to open in Egypt. We already have others like JLL, Savills, and CBRE. So how are you planning to distinguish yourself from your competitors?
Well, a few of those are my previous employers, and I think each one has a different offering to give to the market. So some of them are focused more on specific service lines that they're better at. But I also think that what separates Knight Frank is it's very boutique. It's very personalized. It's also very personal when it comes to your clients. We're not looking to sign on every single developer in Egypt. I think we're looking to make partnerships with the clients we work with. We want long-term relationships with our clients. We want to be part of their teams, and we want them to be part of our teams as well. So I think each one is different with the offering and the type of service that they provide. They're all top tier quality consultants, don't get me wrong, but I think their approach is very different. Each one is different, and there's enough work in the market to allow for even more consultancies to enter the real estate market in Egypt.
What makes you think that the Egyptian real estate sector is unique?
So what makes the Egyptian market unique, I think the most important part is that you basically buy off plan on a payment plan directly with the developer, which is not very common. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's not very common outside of Egypt because of the mortgage market. I think the mortgage financing is still very expensive in Egypt, which makes it not supporting the end user. So I think that's where the developers took things into their own hands and said, okay, we're going to offer these payment plans. And because we're going to get paid over a payment plan, we can't just build and then sell the ready units. We need to sell off plan, and then this is self-financing, right? So I think that what makes it very unique, but also poses sometimes a threat on the developer if there are uncertain market conditions.
Thank you so much for your time and your insight.
It was my absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me.